everyone, and welcome back to the Smart Tea podcast, where we talk about the lives of scientists and innovators who shape the world. I'm Aarati.
And I'm her mom, Jyoti.
So before we get into the podcast, I have very exciting news. So you remember how we did an episode on Alice Stewart a few months ago? Like 2 episodes, actually.
Oh, yes, the scientist who did so much to set the standards for radiation, to have those protections in place for people who work with radiations.
Yes. So for that episode, I got a lot of the information from a book called Alice Stewart, The Woman Who Knew Too Much, written by Gail Green.
Yes.
And Gail Green actually contacted me. She wrote an email saying, I just happened upon your podcast, which I loved, and I want to thank you for your interest in my book, A Pleasant Surprise. Hearing you tell Alice's story brought back one of the most interesting writing projects of my life, and many details I had forgotten.
Oh, my goodness.
We're famous.
This is fantastic news.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for reaching out to us to let us know that you enjoyed our retelling of your story.
That book just had so much information that I had to do 2 episodes on Alice Stewart. And even then I was cutting things and unfortunately I had to summarize so much of the detail that she had in there.
Because her book was a fire hose of information.
Yes, it was just amazing.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Green, for reaching out to us and making us feel that our shouts into the void are actually heard somewhere, by somebody.
We're making it into the big leagues now.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Green, and thank you for supporting us.
And also, I let her know, anytime she wants to be a guest on the podcast, she is more than welcome. We would love to have her because I'm sure she knows so much more about other scientists. She already kind of hinted that she knows some juicy details about Alice Stewart's nemesis, Richard Dahl.
The guy who did not support her. And then later they tried to reframe her work as basically his contribution. Yes.
Yeah. So anytime.
That would
anytime
be,
you want to come
wonderful.
on the podcast, you're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Green.
Yes. Amazing. So for today's story, I have a really good one for you. I belatedly actually realized that it's been 1 year since you took over co-hosting the podcast with me.
Yes.
So
can you believe it?
I know.
I've enjoyed every minute of it.
It genuinely makes me happy that you enjoy listening to these stories.
Oh, yes. Because I learned so much from you, Aarati. I really do. The podcasts are so informative, so beautifully scripted out, very engaging. And really, it's my privilege to be your co-host. And hopefully, one of these days, I'll do better and actually contribute a story of my own.
Yes, we have gotten some questions. When's your mom telling a story? Yes. So at some point, you definitely need to do that. But I know you're very busy.
I am very busy. I always bite more than I can chew. So at some point, yes. I'll get there.
Yes. But in honor of your 1-year anniversary, I knew I had to pick a really, really good story. So today's story, I think, is going to be your new heroine, the new person that you will, look up to for the rest of your life.
Go fangirling on.
Yes. Her name is Ynes Mexia. And I actually heard about her through someone that I was working with. His daughter watched this kids show called Eleanor Wonders Why. And in that show, they had a little song about Ynes Mexia. And so he's the one who told me about her. And so then I started digging into her life. And it is just incredible. Her life is incredible. So most of the information for this episode I got actually from another book by an author named Derlin Anema. And it's called The Perfect Specimen. And so what that's a reference to is Ynes Mexia became one of the most famous botanical collectors. She went around collecting plant specimens that would then be given to natural history museums and researchers for them to study.
She did the field work for people who did the lab work, which is actually very difficult when you think about it, because you have to keep the context very strong. The
Yes.
specimen has to be transported correctly. You have to know how to
Yes.
do that. And then also, what are the other species that are surrounding it? The temperatures, the elevation, how close is that plant growing towards a water body? I'm thinking of all this because I, with great difficulty, try to keep my garden going.
Yes.
I managed to kill more than I grow, I think.
Well, this is why I thought you would like it, because you take so much pleasure in your garden, even if it is a bit of a struggle to keep it alive.
They are all friends, the
Yeah.
plants in the gardens. And in fact, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if I ever told you that the tree, unfortunately, that we lost last year was the reason I bought the house that we live in.
Yes,
Because
you told me that.
I went up to the tree when I came to view the house the first time. I looked at the tree and I said, this is a friend. And of
Yes.
course, the friend cannot come visit me wherever I am. So I need to
Mm-hmm.
be here to visit
Yes.
my friend every day. And that's how I bought this house, actually. I feel such a strong bond with trees and nature and plants and everything.
Yeah, that's why I thought you would really like this story, because she is absolutely cut from the same cloth. And one more note that I want to say about her name. Her last name, Mexia, is spelled Mexia. And
Okay.
so in some places, or sometimes it will sound like Mexia, but like she's from Mexico, so
Uh
it's
huh. Uh huh.
pronounced Inez Mejia. But I
Okay.
just wanted to say that.
Okay.
So, okay, so her full name is Inez Enriqueta Julieta Mejia, and she
Okay.
was born on May 24th, 1870, in Washington, D.C. Her father, General Enrique Mejia, was a Mexican diplomat who was living in D.C., and her
Ah,
mother, Sarah Wilmer Mejia, was American. So they got married. They had an older daughter named Adele, and then Inez came after that.
okay.
Enrique had inherited a vast amount of land in Texas from his father, and in
Mm.
1870, the same year that Inez was born, he helped found the town of Mejia, Texas, which still exists today. So you can go
Those
visit.
are strong roots,
Mm-hmm.
ancestral land. That's
Yes.
fantastic.
And so shortly after her birth, Inez and the family moved to Mejia, Texas.
Yeah, it's their town. Yeah.
It's their town. Inez was a very shy child, and she didn't have many friends.
Hmm.
Her father was always away on business, and her mother and older sister were always hosting social gatherings and attending parties, very
Mm.
socialite type of people, which Inez did not like at all.
I want to make a weird, I want to make a horrible pun.
Yes,
She was the plant and they were the butterflies.
yes, just social
The
butterflies.
social butterflies, while she was
Yes,
the plant person.
yes, yes.
Horrible. I know. Forgive me for my stupid jokes.
But so because of this, she was largely ignored by her family, and
Okay.
instead she spent her time reading and going on walks in the countryside, observing nature. When she was 6 years old, her life changed suddenly when her parents separated.
Oh no. Okay.
Her father went back to Mexico, and even though Inez would write to him about her life and ask him when he was coming back, he ignored the letters and she never heard back.
Oh no. I
Yeah.
wonder what happened. Did they get intercepted or something?
No, he just couldn't be bothered.
Oh, that is very sad actually.
Yeah, it was just very uncaring. Her mother moved Inez and Adele to Philadelphia and enrolled the girls in a private school. But Inez did not fit in well here because
Mm.
even though she also came from a very wealthy background with a very high social standing, she wasn't a socialite like her mother and sister.
Her mom probably chose that kind of school to begin with, some sort of a girls' finishing school or a debutante school or something like that. If
Yeah,
she had picked a school that was fostering scientific curiosity or something, Ines would have fit
yes.
in.
Yeah, and then add to this that her mom kept on moving them around. So they went from
Mm.
Philadelphia to Toronto to Maryland. She keeps on having to hop, and that's like an introvert's nightmare, I feel like, to
Correct.
keep on being thrown into
Absolutely.
these new.
New situations, new friends. Yes, yes, absolutely. She's not allowed to develop any roots.
Mm-hmm. And so,
Hmm.
because of that, she ended up retreating further and further into herself. Her one constant was the Catholic Church. She was extremely devout, and she found a lot of comfort going to the church and praying and telling the idol, the Virgin Mary, about her life and walking around the church grounds.
Hmm.
And in fact, Inez dreamt of becoming a nun when she was older.
That fits. Okay.
Then in 1887, just after Inez graduated from high school, her father, out of the blue, wrote to her and asked her to come stay with him in Mexico City.
Oh, that is nice.
Yeah, so Inez was like, this is a weird, sudden change of heart after a decade with no contact, but she
Yeah.
felt she had to obey her father. So she packed her bags and she took the train to Mexico City. And when she arrived at the house, her father told her he brought her there essentially to take care of the huge household that he had because he was away on business all the time.
Oh, he wanted a housekeeper and she was just old enough to be useful. What a
Yes.
selfish narcissist.
And, she's like barely 18, and this household is huge. She'd have to supervise cooks and maids and gardeners. And he had a ranch, so she'd have to take care of all the workers that worked on the ranch. And she didn't know any Spanish, which is the primary language that all these people speak. And so Inez realized, like, he doesn't actually care about her at all. He's
Absolutely.
just using her. But she did stay, maybe because she felt, again, she needed to obey her father, respect for your elders or something. But she did not approve of his lifestyle at all. He had
Okay.
many mistresses who would come and go. Turned out she also had an older half sister, Amy, and a half brother, Clarence, from her father's previous marriage.
Which she did not know.
She might have known, but she did not know that they were staying in the house and that she would kind of be expected to interact with them.
But if there was an older half sister, why was the older half sister not put to work before Inez was?
No idea. Well, maybe a little bit of an idea. We'll get to that in a minute. In 1896, Enrique fell ill and died, leaving almost everything he owned in Mexico and Texas to Inez and her sister Adele.
Oh, really?
Yes. He had one stipulation that if Inez did go off and become a nun, then her portion would also go to Adele. He left very little to their half-siblings, Amy and Clarence,
I see.
and this devolved into a huge legal battle. So it turned out that Enrique possibly had never officially married Amy and Clarence's mother, and so proving that they were legitimate heirs to his fortune was really difficult.
I see.
And so that might be why he kind of groomed Inez to take over the ranch and the
I see.
property.
Oh, he kind of wanted it to go to his legitimate heirs. I hate to sound very judgmental, but he sounds like a piece of work, the father.
Yes, he definitely does.
Because it sounds
Yeah.
almost as if, like, he did not even marry that first lady who
Mm-hmm.
gave him two kids. And again, we are talking of old times. Having a son would have been a very prized thing in those days.
Mm-hmm.
And that also did not make him bend down, which makes me feel that he did not respect the mother of Inez's half siblings, the older half siblings. He did not respect Inez.
Yeah, he's definitely a terrible person.
But now Inez is an heiress.
Yes. So Inez and Adele won the legal battle, and Inez fully took over all of her father's property and business in Mexico.
Okay.
And Adele didn't really have any interest in going to Mexico. So I think Adele kind of got whatever he had in Texas, and Inez got whatever he had in Mexico. And so now you have this young, very pretty 26-year-old woman who's in charge of this huge property and fortune. And so suddenly she finds herself being courted by
Of
many
course.
men.
Jane Austen said it for men, actually. A young man
Yes.
with a desirable fortune
Must be in want of a wife.
must be in want of a
Yeah.
wife. A young
Yes.
woman with a desirable fortune must be in want of a husband.
Exactly. And so they're all after her. But there was one in particular who was very persistent, a German Spanish merchant named Hermann Lau. He proposed, and Ynes, who had never actually really been in any sort of romantic relationship before, and she didn't really know much about marriage or intimacy, she just accepted. She was like, okay, without really knowing, I think, what she was getting into.
Of course. Her bent of mind is more towards becoming a nun. That
Yes.
tells you a lot. She's introspective, she's introverted. She
Mm-hmm.
probably cloisters herself by because that's her true nature.
Yes.
And so she is pretty vulnerable.
Yes. Yeah. And so she just accepted. They were married in 1898 in a quiet ceremony. Herman, I think, had really good intentions. He wanted to take care of her and take care of the ranch, but Inez had a really hard time with this because she had grown up so used to being alone and managing everything herself. And she wasn't able to be close with other people, even if it was her own husband. And
Okay.
so things like, letting go and letting him handle some stuff or, accepting or giving love, communication, these things are really hard for her. But they both tried their best until suddenly in 1904, 6 years after they had married, Herman died. And I'm not sure of what, some illness, probably.
But he was a good man, at least.
It seemed like it.
So even though she was vulnerable, it was not a very bad hand.
No, it
Mm.
wasn't too bad. Yeah,
Yes.
but
Yeah. I think the concept of marriage went against her true nature, probably.
exactly.
That is,
Yeah.
that was the issue.
So Inez continued managing the ranch, and then 4 years later, she met and married another man named Augustin de Regatas, who was 16 years younger than her.
Okay.
I'm really not sure what they saw in each other. And although it seems like Augustin tried his best, he was not a good partner for Inez. He didn't know how to manage the ranch, and he started to screw up the business. And so Inez, probably from the stress of the failing ranch and the fact that she's not used to being married, she's in this really bad headspace. She felt extremely lonely and she would curl up in bed and just lie there. And Augustine had
Mm.
no idea what to do.
Horrible, horrible turn.
He brought in doctors to try and understand what was wrong with her, but nothing helped. Finally, in 1909, she had such a severe mental breakdown that a doctor advised her that she needs to just leave Mexico completely and try to find a psychiatrist in the US.
Okay.
Psychiatry was a very new field at the time.
Because mental illness was legitimately called an illness much later.
Yes.
People just said, oh, you can just overcome it or whatever. Even now,
Yeah.
that stigma is there. Yeah.
Or they probably chalked it up to like female hysteria or something stupid like that.
Exactly. It was not considered illness, a true illness.
But Inez's doctor was able to recommend Dr. Philip King Brown, who practiced in San Francisco. So Inez and Augustine went to San Francisco and got an apartment there. And Dr.
Hmm.
Brown started to help her.
Okay.
And she did slowly start to improve. But Dr. Brown warned her it's going to take some time for her to get
Okay.
better. This is not something that you can cure very quickly.
Makes sense.
And so Inez understood this and she was like, yeah, I'm willing to stay whatever it takes to get better. But Augustine was uncomfortable in the US because he didn't speak English very well.
Yeah. He's a fish out of water. Hmm.
Meanwhile, the ranch is really suffering without anyone to take
Correct.
care of it. And so Inez told Augustine to go back and handle things in Mexico while she stayed in San Francisco.
Okay.
He was reluctant to do that, but eventually he went back. But he was not at all able to handle the business and the property the way Inez had. And so by 1911, the business was bankrupt and Inez had to sell the house.
Yeah. We can see this coming. Yeah.
Yes. Augustine wanted to come back to the US and stay with Inez, but by this time, Inez had been working on her own mental health with Dr. Brown, and
Yeah.
she had come to that realization, like you said, that marriage is not for her. It's not going to
Yeah.
work.
She's not cut out for all that marriage entails. Some people are born to be introverts and their own best friends, actually.
And she also knew that Augustine would not be happy in America. So
Yes.
she wrote to him saying, you know what, we should just get a divorce. It's our best option.
And they didn't have children at this point, it sounds like.
No,
She did not have any children.
no, she never had
So, yeah,
children.
she's right. Set him free, and she's free to then pursue her own way of life.
Yeah, so that's what she did. And because of this, Ynes slowly, finally started to find herself. She loved living in San Francisco, and she especially loved walking in Golden Gate Park.
Beautiful place. Absolutely perfect for somebody who wants to do introspection. She must have felt a fresh sense of freedom.
Yes.
And walking
Yes.
along Golden Gate Park, feeling that freedom, I can practically taste her happiness.
Dr. Brown became a friend and almost like a father figure to her, taking an interest in her hobbies, which was a new type of support that she had never had. No one
Mm,
in her family had ever really cared what she was into and not into before. But he also made sure that she didn't become too dependent on him by
mm,
encouraging her to get involved in new things. She became particularly interested in photography and painting,
mm.
focusing her artistic lens on nature. In 1917, she joined the Sierra Club, which was founded by John Muir of Muir Woods.
You have to do a little
Yes.
genuflecting there.
Yes. The Sierra Club is dedicated to the preservation and exploration of the Sierra Nevada region, including
Yes.
Yosemite. And so she started making friends with the other members in the Sierra Club.
She's in good company.
Yeah.
That's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. And they would go on outings together.
Oh,
And, it's just this nature lovers
yes,
club.
being in nature, being with each other,
Mm-hmm.
and leaving each other in peace to enjoy nature.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
beautiful.
She also enjoyed hiking through the redwoods and joined the Save the Redwoods League and advocated strongly to preserve the forests, which, I mean, in California, that's the best place to be doing that.
Plus, I'm imagining this and I'm practically turning green with envy because this was the time before Instagram or
Hmm.
selfie or any of that nonsense. And so she would have been really at peace, just
Yes.
being in the moment.
I can just imagine her, walking through these redwood groves and just absorbing the forest and the woods.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's the way to live life.
Oh, yeah. Side note, from 1920 to 1928, the Save the Redwood League purchased a number of redwood groves to preserve them, which later ended up becoming the California Redwood State Park system.
Fantastic, which we are benefiting now because
Yes.
of that.
And
We
she
get
was
to,
part of that. She was, part
yes,
of advocating for preserving these forest groves. And
big thank you to her. Big thank you to
yes.
her and all the people who did that.
So now that Inez had spent a few years really having the freedom to do what she wanted and explore nature, she realized how little she actually knew about the things she was seeing. She doesn't actually know how plants grow or why there's so many different species. So, in 1921, at the age of 51, she decided to enroll in classes at UC Berkeley to learn.
Good for her. That's
Yes.
the spirit.
She was the oldest student, but she was like, hey, we're all here for the same
Yeah.
purpose.
So what? Age is just a number.
Yes. And here at UC Berkeley is where one of her professors introduced her to botanical collecting, which, like it sounds, is where you collect specimens of plants and then either press them or dry them to preserve them for researchers to study. This absolutely hooked her, and she started taking more classes in botany and went on botanical expeditions to collect specimens. Ynes never actually earned a degree, but she
Okay.
continued taking classes at Berkeley sporadically over the years.
Knowledge for the sake of knowledge, not to show off a degree, not to then employ that degree to kind of land a job. It's like true pursuit of knowledge.
True curiosity. So, in between that and going on botanical expeditions, she did additional studies at the California Academy of Sciences, which is
Yes.
right there in Golden Gate Park. And here she met and became friends with the prominent botanist Alice Eastwood. In 1925, she took a course in flowering plants at the
Hmm,
Hopkins Marine Station in Pacific Grove,
hmm,
California.
hmm.
And here she met Roxana Ferris, who was the assistant curator at the Dudley Herbarium at Stanford. Roxana and her husband were planning a trip to Mexico to collect plant specimens. And when they found out that Ynes had spent so many years living in Mexico, they invited her to come along, knowing that she would know more about the culture and maybe be able to assist them in getting into places that Americans normally wouldn't be able to access because she knows the language and the people. And
Excellent, excellent thinking, and a very serendipitous juxtaposition there.
yes, and Inez, of course, was super excited. She's
Of
thrilled.
course. Yes.
And very cleverly, she wrote to Alice Eastwood at the
Hmm.
California Academy of Sciences asking if they would be willing to fund Inez's expenses for this Mexico trip in return for Ynes essentially duplicating whatever Roxana Ferris's collection was.
Yes.
Ynes would duplicate it and give it to the Academy.
Okay. Yes.
So the Academy agreed to pay Ynes for her specimens when she returned, and so off
Okay.
she went.
All
Yeah.
right.
However, shortly after arriving in Mexico, Ynes fell back into her old groove of wanting to be alone. She really didn't enjoy the company of Roxana and her husband, and Ynes kind of had come up with her own agenda of places she wanted to explore. And so they agreed to part ways, and Ynes was then free, basically, to go off on her own and collect whatever she wanted. Ynes wanted to start her expedition at Mazatlan, which is on the western coast of Mexico, and then travel down the coast collecting plants as she went. She hired a native guide who knew the trails, and the two of them went by horseback along the coast through the foothills.
I can see her in the cool morning mist on the back of a horse, going along the trails, going along the west side of Mexico. Oh, this
Yes.
is beautiful. Beautiful. What a beautiful life.
However, just 2 days into this exploration, Ynes saw a specimen out on a ledge that was jutting out over a cliff.
No, she went chasing that.
Yes, she went and tried to collect it, and she fell over the cliff and ended up
Yeah,
fracturing her hand and breaking some ribs.
of course. Come
Yes.
on. You have to have common sense. Come on.
No, she was just focused on, like, I want that plant that's growing up there, and didn't watch her footing, and over the cliff she went. Luckily, she had her guide with her, who was able to bring her back to her horse and take her back to Mazatlan. She was extremely disappointed when she learned that she would have to cut her trip short and go back to the US in order to heal. However, despite this, on this short expedition, Ynes had collected over 500 different species of plants, one of which was a new, undiscovered plant, which had this gorgeous purplish pinkish flower that looks like an exploding firework. It's really pretty.
So, in a very short amount of time, she collected not only a lot of specimens, 500 is a lot of specimens, but also extremely unique and unknown ones.
Yes, so this was an undiscovered plant, and it was named Mimosa Mexia after her.
Okay.
And I think that's how you
lovely.
pronounce it. Even like I was saying, even though her last name is Mexia, I think the Latin name for this flower is Mimosa Mexia.
Makes sense.
I think. Yeah, so she's back in the US, she's recovering, but she's already planning her trip back to Mexico. She acknowledged that her first trip had been kind of sudden, like she had just been kind of whisked along on this trip by Roxana and her husband.
She rode the tide of their enthusiasm.
Yeah, and so while they may have planned out their trip, she did not plan out hers. And
she was a tag along. Yeah.
Yes. And then she didn't stick with them, and it ended by her abruptly falling off a cliff.
This time she's going to actually mean it and plan it accordingly.
Yes, exactly. And so this time she planned out a 6-month expedition that would start again in Mazatlan and explore the coast and the mountains in that area. She got some funding from the University of California's botany department, and then more funding or promises of payment for specimens from various natural history museums and institutions.
Okay.
So in August 1926, after she's healed, she's headed back to Mexico again. From Mazatlan, she went to Tepic, which is a small city in the Sierra Madre Mountains. Here she hired another guide named Mauro, who also learned how to press the specimens, so he was able to assist her in her work.
She got some help.
But even so, with the two of them working together, it would often take almost 6 hours to preserve every specimen that Ynes had collected each day.
So she's collecting a lot of specimens, and then after that she's working 6 hours. At some point she's got to sleep and eat and actually cook something and feed herself. These make very long days, and probably enjoyed every minute of it.
Oh, yes. After 2 weeks in the Sierra Madre, she traveled south to Ixtlan del Rio, which was even higher in the mountains. After collecting in that area for a few days, she returned to Mazatlan to drop off her collection because, remember, she has to carry all of this equipment and specimens around with her everywhere she goes.
That's right. So she's created kind of a central holding spot at Mazatlan.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
She said, quote, "My dryers get filled up and still numberless plants sit and look at me and announce that they're still waiting to be collected."
Oh, she's talking to them.
Yes.
This is so sweet.
Yes. "I work to my capacity with what green help I can find in each new locality, and then everyone tells me of all sorts of delightful points to which I have not yet gone, and all kinds of plants I have not yet come across. It's terribly trying for a greedy collector like myself."
Oh,
End
I
quote.
can see that. Everybody
Yes.
telling her, but if you like this, you will surely like this other one that I know about, and I can
Yes.
take you there. It's only 10 hours away from here.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is cross 2 more cliffs.
Yes, exactly. And all of these places she's going are very wild. Like, she has to hire local guides who can actually take her to these places because it's not
And
like
there
she's
is no
walking.
path, I'm sure. It's not what we are imagining at all,
Oh,
where,
no.
nowadays all our hiking and trekking and all that we
We can never truly get lost. Yeah, but
exactly.
she could really get lost.
Don't say that to me. You
Okay,
know
yeah,
how
that's
I
true.
managed to get lost. I
Yes.
can get lost in many places. But yeah, I mean, this would have been completely uncharted territory looking for unknown specimens. This is fantastic. Okay.
Yeah, so
Hmm.
she's traveling from place to place. She's climbing mountains. She's taking canoes, going down rivers and lagoons. And then she's staying in small villages. And the people in these villages thought she was very strange because she's running around and she's getting all
Yes.
excited, picking
Yes.
plants. And why are you getting so excited about plants in the first place? Yeah, they grow around, you
Yes.
know?
This is a natural thing that happens around here.
Never met someone who's so interested in plants.
Yes. Yes.
But she was really on a mission to collect as many new samples from unexplored places as possible. And many times, the people that she's staying with are very poor.
Yeah.
And although she herself couldn't offer them much, she was very impressed at how willing they were to take care of her. In return for their hospitality, she would give her guides and her host families photographs of themselves, which were highly prized because no one had a camera in those areas.
That's a very fair trade, actually. They would
Yes.
never have a photograph of themselves otherwise.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit of money from her would come and it would go away. But a
Mm-hmm.
photograph
Yeah.
and then memories that it would hold, that's a more than fair trade.
Oh, yes. So she traveled to the coastal city of Puerto Vallarta next because she knew that very few, if any, botanical collectors had ever explored that region. She then hiked east inland to a town called San Sebastian, which was an old
Mhm.
mining town high in the mountains. For reference, I mapped it out on Google Map. The hike from Puerto Vallarta to San Sebastian is nearly 40 miles and roughly a 4,500-foot elevation gain.
That's a lot. How long did it take her?
I don't know, but a couple of days, I would assume. 40 miles, like that would probably
No,
take you.
no, it has to be more than that. It has to be a lot
No,
more
I'm
than
just saying at least a few days. At least a few
at least a
days.
few days. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. So she hikes for 40 miles from Puerto Vallarta to San Sebastian, gaining elevation as she goes. And then on her first day after arriving in San Sebastian, she hiked to the peak of the tallest mountain in that area, La Bufa, which
Oh,
is about 8,000 feet above sea level.
so she's already done 4,500 and now she's climbing another practically 4,000 feet. Oh, on the first day itself.
Yeah, like literally no break.
Her enthusiasm is unbound.
Absolutely. So by the time she was done with this trip and headed back to the US, Inez had collected 33,000 specimens from nearly 6,600 different plants.
Why am I not surprised? If
I
she could
know.
collect 500 in just a few days,
Mm-hmm.
this is well planned, well thought out. Of course,
Yes.
she's got them in the thousands, if not in the tens of thousands.
Yes. She distributed them as promised to natural history museums and universities, where they determined that she had collected one entirely new genus. So that's one level above species.
Correct.
So, for perspective, humans have the genus Homo. We are Homo
Yes.
sapiens. So, sapien
Yes.
is the species. So, we are in the same family as great apes like gorilla and chimpanzees. So
Yes.
this would be like her discovering an entirely new category of great ape.
Ah,
Yeah.
wow. That is something.
So an entirely new
Yes.
genus. She also discovered 50 new species.
Oh, what a remarkable woman.
And ultimately, that genus was named Mexianthus in her honor
Okay.
and is part of the daisy family.
That is nice.
Yes.
I don't think I'll look at a daisy again the same way. When I look at
Yeah.
a daisy, I have to think of Ines Mejia now.
Hi everyone, Aarati here. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. If so, and you wish someone would tell your science story, I founded a science communications company called SciComm, that's SYKOM, that can help. SciComm blends creativity with scientific accuracy to create all types of science communications content, including explainer videos, slide presentations, science writing, and more. We work with academic researchers, tech companies, nonprofits, or really any scientist to help simplify your science. Check us out at scikommer.com. That's SYKOMMER.com. Okay, back to the story. So now, because of this, her reputation is cemented, and she was quickly chosen by the British Museum of Natural History to collect specimens in Alaska.
Ah,
So on this trip, she was accompanied by a young botanist named Frances Payne.
okay.
The two of them set off in June 1928 to explore McKinley Park, which is
Okay.
now Denali National Park and Reserve. But Frances soon realized that there was no way she could keep up with Ynes.
Wait a second. She's at this point, she's crossed 55, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Francis, the youngster, is
Mm-hmm.
unable to keep up with Ines.
Yes. Ynes was willing to go off trail and climb jagged peaks and basically go places where no one had ever been before.
She has shown herself to be willing to break ribs and fall off cliffs. What's a little off trail business?
Yes. And Francis is like, no, we should stay close to park headquarters. Like, I don't want to get lost. What if we end up in a bad situation? So Francis wanted to play it safe, and Ynes
Yes,
was not about that. And so again, Ynes is separated from her traveling partner to go off exploring on her own.
which suits her fine.
Yes, she had some pack dogs to help her carry all of her equipment and specimens, but other than that, she was alone. She didn't even
And
have
they
a
are the
guide.
best. They are the best of friends. Pack dogs, come on. Then you can
Yeah,
never be lonely.
but no guide or anything, no human guide.
Who needs humans?
Yeah, who
Yes.
needs that? She collected samples from as many different areas as far away from each other as she could. Rain, wind, and rough terrain often made her job difficult, and she was only able to get about 400 specimens.
Only.
Only. Yes. But she had to finally admit defeat in September when it snowed so heavily that she and her dogs got trapped at their campsite and had to be rescued by park rangers.
So basically, it's like, I will take this to the absolute limit, and until
Yes.
everything gives way, I'll continue.
Yes, I will go through rain, I will go through sleet, I will go through wind, but until I actually get trapped by snow, there's no stopping me.
Yes.
Yeah. By this time, Ynes had truly blossomed, not only as a collector, but as a person as well. Dr. Brown, her therapist, was thrilled at all the activities she was doing, and she would visit him often and tell him about her adventures.
That's nice that she has kept in touch with him, or maybe she was
Yeah.
still seeking his help to keep herself
Mm-hmm.
on the right path. But it's wonderful that she's able to have that, and they have maintained that kind of bond.
Yes. And then because of his help, she's also, now made a number of friends through the Sierra
Yes,
Club and
yes.
working with various natural history museums. One very good friend she made actually through another course that she took at UC Berkeley in 1927 was
Mhm.
Nina Floy Bracelin, also known as Bracy. Bracy was a young student and loved hearing about Inez's adventures, but she came to realize that while Ynes was very enthusiastic about collecting specimens, she wasn't as excited about organizing them and properly documenting and packaging them up to be sent to the various museums. So Bracy, who's interested in botany but also loved organizing things, offered to help Ynes catalog all of her collections.
What a fantastic pair.
Yes.
A very nice symbiotic relationship there.
Yeah, so Bracy would deal with the paperwork. She would keep up with the correspondence to all these universities and museums who are interested in Inez's collections, and she would
Yes.
help with fundraising. And so that left Inez free to plan her exploration trips and give presentations about what she had learned. In 1929, Inez is now 59 years old.
Mm.
She travels to Brazil on her longest expedition yet. So she boards a ship headed to Brazil. And on that ship, there was a ceremony for people who had never crossed the equator before. So
Okay.
what they would do is they would paint each person and then throw them into the ship's swimming pool as a joke. So Inez swam in that pool all the time during the journey. And she decided that she was going to flip the script. And so when
Okay.
they threw her in the pool,
Yeah.
she pretended to go limp and sank to the bottom and stayed there.
She has become a prankster.
Yes.
Not only is she now coming out of her shell, she's
hmm
reversing the whole thing and playing pranks on people.
Yes. So the guard and the crew freaked out and they dragged her back out and she pretended to come to. And she said, quote, "The joke was not on me this time as it had been with the others," end quote.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Got
But
it.
like you said, I think it's a really nice way to depict how much she's blossomed and really, come
Absolutely.
out of her shell.
That's right.
So on this trip to Brazil, Inez traveled with Agnes Chase, who worked at the Smithsonian, but Agnes was completely unequipped for wandering in the wilderness. She hadn't planned on bringing any food or warm clothes, which Inez insisted on.
Yes.
So the first goal was to climb over Pico de Caparau, which is the third tallest mountain in Brazil at over 9,000 feet.
Oh my goodness. High altitudes now.
On the mountain, Agnes and Inez were able to collect samples, but after days of being out in the wilderness and the rain, Agnes fell sick.
Of course.
So by the time they reached the other side of the mountain, Inez insisted that Agnes had to return to Rio de Janeiro, where they had started their journey, while Inez stayed behind to keep collecting.
Yes. Hmm.
And so again, Inez is like off on her own. She's managing to ditch
Somehow,
these partners.
somehow she manages to ditch her
Yeah.
scientific partners, traveling partners, but they also seem to keep underestimating what's required.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure they were thinking, oh, it's almost 60. How much can she do? I'm definitely going to be able to keep up with her. And then
Yes.
all of a sudden they realize, actually, not.
And there was a quote in there actually from Inez. Inez said something like, "These scientists, they have
Mm.
absolutely no idea of what is required. Like they're very unpractical." You know?
Yes, so
So,
buried in their own elite towers that they don't recognize what real life is about. People who have been buried in lab work don't understand what field work entails.
no. And Inez was like, you have to be prepared. You have to have food. You have to have shelter. You have to have warm clothes. You have to have all these things. Whereas people like Agnes were like, oh, we'll just muddle through somehow. And
Yeah, I'm strong, I'm young.
yeah, and Inez is like,
Yes,
no, there's no muddle. You don't understand the conditions that
that's
we're
right.
going to
I've
be
read a
going
book
into.
about this. I should be able to
Yeah.
muddle through.
Yes,
Mm,
we'll be fine. And it's like, no, you
yes,
will not. Pack food, pack clothes, pack a shelter.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So now Inez is traveling on her own through Brazil. A few weeks later, in early December, Inez made it to Minas Gerais, which is a large state in eastern Brazil. She stayed in the town of Vicosa, where there was an
Mm,
agricultural college.
mm,
And here she teamed up with the local student, Joaquin Braga, who was also
okay.
interested in botany. They would take 3 mules to carry all of their equipment and specimens to go on
Yes.
collecting expeditions. And, again, it's like her lifestyle is very surprising to the people that she's encountering here. By this time, she learned that she preferred to sleep outdoors, even when somebody offered her a room to stay in, partly because she liked being alone and having the privacy, but partly because, insects would come into people's house and bothered her. So she's like, I'll
Mm,
just sleep under the stars.
yeah.
She also rode astride on mules while wearing
Mm,
trousers or divided skirts, which was quite a sight for the locals. Like, a
yes.
woman
Yeah.
wearing
Yes.
pants?
That side saddle business was extremely dangerous actually for a woman.
Yes. And she was like, I'm not messing around with that. No, no,
Correct.
thank you.
Yes.
She stayed here for a year and was very reluctant to leave because she found the place so beautiful and the people were so friendly. But eventually, she felt that she needed to move on and keep traveling around South America as she had originally intended.
Yes.
She was particularly excited to explore the Amazon River and the abundance of tropical plants that grew along it.
The biodiversity there is
Hmm.
phenomenal even today. Hmm.
Yes.
What it must have been in those days.
Amazing. It must have been amazing. So, in August 1931, she boarded a steamship called the Victoria to travel west along the river. She still wasn't sure where she would end up, so she got visas for Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and Bolivia just to be safe.
She is pragmatic, isn't she?
Very. Yes.
It shows you that for things that matter, she knows
Mm-hmm.
how to be practical and resourceful about it. But
Yes.
then, when it comes to falling off cliffs and all that, she's
Mm-hmm.
highly impractical with
Yes.
the eye on the prize and just crawling up a cliff in order to grab something and then falling off and breaking ribs.
I would like to say she learned from that experience, but then she got snowed in Alaska, so I'm not really
That's
sure,
true. Yeah. So
so
so I think it's like her focus is so laser sharp on what she wants. In some cases, reality breaks through. It's like you're crossing borders. You
yes.
cannot enter without a visa. Okay, okay, I'll
Mm-hmm.
get a visa.
So as they traveled down the river, Inez made some observations that actually tie into some of our previous episodes. So, first of all, she was pleasantly surprised to note that there were not as many mosquitoes buzzing around. And
Uh-huh.
I double checked the dates, and this was just after Carlos Finlay and Walter Reed's experiments and efforts to eradicate yellow fever from
Ah,
episode
yes,
58.
yes.
Her second observation is they stopped in the city of Manaus, which was thriving because of the rubber industry, because rubber
Ah,
trees grew abundantly along the Amazon. And this is a few years before Charles Goodyear came up with synthetic rubber, whose
yes,
story we covered in episode 45.
correct.
So,
These people are all in their own circles, but we are
but it's all
drawing a
connected.
drawing a picture of how the world was connected in those days.
Yes. They traveled for 2,500 miles along the river out of Brazil, briefly into Colombia, and then finally into Peru, ending
Okay,
her journey in Iquitos. Inez stayed here for a month, preparing for her journey into the Amazon's wilderness. She hired 3 men, Jose, Valentino, and Neptali, as guides, porters, and hunters who would help her during her planned 3-month expedition.
okay,
They traveled along the river by canoe, and Inez loved seeing the beauty around her.
yes.
This is kind of a long quote, but it's worth it. She wrote, quote, "The shining cream brown river stretching from sunrise to sunset, confined by living green walls on the right and on the left, and above all the high arched sky delicately clouded at dawn, its intense blue relieved as the sun rose higher by fleecy white clouds, which soon piled aloft in huge cumuli, and turning black and threatening as they bore down upon us in a torrent of blinding rain, with thunder and lightning for the afternoon storm. The deluge lessened, passed us by, traveling Andesward, and left us crawling in its wake, refreshed and enlivened under a cloudless sky until we headed into the burning heart of the tropical sunset." End quote.
Such beauty evoked poetry in her.
She's actually an amazing writer. Yeah, now
Yes.
that I think about it.
Also, the wording shows you that she spent practically all day floating on that river.
Mm-hmm.
For
Yes.
me, floating on a river reminds me of my short visit to the Everglades in Florida. And that was a magical experience on its own, even though it was just a 1 hour boat ride along the water. It
I
was
don't remember
simply
this. Was
magical.
I born?
You were barely a year old at this point.
Oh, okay.
Beautiful place. And I can imagine if she spent all day, every day gliding along those rivers, her life must have been truly enriched.
So amazing. I mean, what a life. Just climbing mountains, exploring
Yes,
rivers, like just,
gliding along. Yeah.
yes. And again, the book that I read, The Perfect Specimen by Duraline and Emma, like has so much more detail. Again, just like the Alice Stewart, book. Really,
Yes.
you need to read these books to really get a full picture of everything that she saw because I can only summarize so much in like a 1 hour podcast.
Yes.
These books have so much more detail about the things that she saw and the plants that she collected and the people that she talked to. So Ynes and her team met various local native tribes that lived along the
Mhm.
river.
Okay.
Ynes had thoughtfully packed small needles and fish hooks as gifts for the natives, and of course,
Uh,
she took pictures of them, which they were
yes.
thrilled with.
Yes.
And of course, she's collecting all the time. This was the biggest adventure of her life. And so when they finished the trip in Barranca on the coast of Peru, Ynes had collected 65,000 specimens. But although she had to go back to the States to deposit her collection and distribute them around to the people that she had promised, she didn't stay there for long. She had become sort of a legend, this now 65-year-old woman who's
Hmm.
climbing up mountains and rowing up and down the Amazon basically by herself and having
Yes.
all these adventures, which was very strange for a solo woman to be doing on her own.
Yes. Yes.
But when people questioned her about it, she said, quote, "I don't think there's any place in the world where a woman can't venture."
What a wonderful spirit.
Her next trip was to Ecuador in 1934, funded by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, into the Andes, where she stayed again for a year.
Huh.
And as she's going to all these places and she's meeting the locals of all these different places, she says, quote, "Yet the further I stray and the more queer corners I visit, the more convinced that after all, life is pretty much the same everywhere. Here I eat what there is, sleep on my cot, and work collecting and caring for my plants. And
Yes.
the Indians, or the natives, go about their business of living and making a living and feeling ordinary sentiments so familiar to us without great differences except in non-essentials," end quote.
She's taking such a philosophical view of life now.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, she's seen so much that she's like,
Yes.
people are basically the same. We
Yes.
live, we work, we laugh, we cry.
Human beings are really way deep down. It's the same DNA, it's the same emotions that drive us. We have the simple hopes and aspirations and dreams. Everybody has the same kind of thought process, really.
Yes, exactly. In Ecuador, Inez collected one of her most famous specimens, the wax palm tree. She had heard descriptions of it, but she had never actually seen one, and
Okay.
no one in the US had one or had a specimen of it. So she was very determined to get it. It's a tall, slender tree that could grow as tall as 200 feet. And interestingly, it grew high in the mountains because it likes cold air.
This sounds like a real challenge.
She asked the locals about it, and she finally found someone who told her about a possible location on a snow-covered volcano called Volcan de Chiles on the border of Colombia and Ecuador.
Oh, so again, off to inhospitable
Yes,
areas to collect rare specimens. I see.
yes. And the hike up there was terrible. Her horses frequently slipped and got stuck in bogs, but they finally succeeded, and Nunez was able to add the wax palm to her collection.
Incredible woman. Hang
Yes.
on. She collected a 200-foot tall tree that grows high up in the mountains?
Yes. I don't think she collected the entire tree. She would collect specimens like the bark and the leaves and the seeds
Oh
and
my
stuff. But
goodness.
yes,
Okay.
I think they did cut down one tree in order to get all of the pieces
All
of
the
it that
pieces
she
of it.
needed. Like
So
she
she
would need to
brought a
collect
whole
the
tree back
inside.
in pieces. More
Basically,
like,
like she would,
yeah.
yeah. But they were saying even one of the fronds of the, how palm trees kind of grow in these big like fronds like that. Even one
Yeah.
of those fronds took two people to lift and carry. So
Just one frond.
yeah, so there's no way she could bring back the entire tree, but she would have brought back multiple pieces of the bark, the inner,
I
portion of the
see.
tree, some
I
seeds,
see.
some leaves. So that's why It's like she's collecting 33,000 specimens, but from 6,000 species, like that.
Yes, that makes sense.
Some of the roots,
Okay.
some of the leaves, some of the, stems. She's collecting all different parts of the plant.
Okay. I get it.
Yes.
Okay.
And then that
Hmm.
way she can send them to the researchers and, label them, and the researchers would know, okay, now I'm studying the bark of the wax tree or the leaf or the seed or
Okay.
whatever.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think wherever she could, she would bring back an entire plant. But, but I think she did bring back some seeds in hopes of planting one in the US.
They wouldn't have made it because that's a very unique climate that is required. Altitude plus climate, all of too many,
No, but in some
very,
in some greenhouse or some like, controlled lab environment, like she can't just scatter them around, but maybe you could cultivate one somewhere in a
yes,
lab and get some
y-
information that way. So,
yes, find another mountain to plant it on. Yes, I get
yes.
it.
But also, on the way back from collecting the wax palm, she accidentally ate some poisonous berries and fell violently
Ah,
sick.
okay.
So once they returned to the village they were staying at, the locals, interestingly, this is an interesting remedy. So the locals caught a chicken. They pulled off a feather and stuck it down her throat in order to make her throw up. And after
Ah,
that, she recovered quickly. So all in a day's collecting.
yeah. Oh, good Lord. But at least they knew what they were doing. She was in good hands.
Yes. So Inez continued to make trips to South America, with one trip taking her to the very southernmost tip of Chile. When she was back in the US, she would take courses that interested her, although sometimes at this point she was more of a teacher than a student because she had so
I
much
can
field
I can
experience.
imagine. She's just entering the classroom in order to be with like-minded people, really.
Yes. In April 1938, she was on an expedition in Oaxaca, Mexico,
Hmm.
and started to feel sick. She reluctantly returned home to see a doctor who told her that she had advanced lung cancer and had very little time left.
Lung cancer.
One of
Huh.
the
Whoa.
random rare ones that I don't think was caused by smoking or anything.
And she spent so much time in nature.
Mhm.
Must have been some kind of genetic factor at play.
Yeah. Her friend Bracy cared for her at her home in Berkeley until her death on July 12th, 1938.
Very short illness. She fell
Yeah.
sick in April, came back home,
Mhm.
and she
Passed
moved
away in
on,
July.
passed away in July.
Yes.
So a short illness at the end. That is always a good thing, actually.
Yeah.
It's hard for everybody when the person lingers.
Yes, it's a blessing in its own way.
Correct.
In her will, she left a large portion of her money to the Sierra Club and the Save the Redwoods League, with
Hmm.
some money also going to Adele, her sister, Dr. Brown, and her friend Bracy, all the important people and organizations in her life.
She remembers everybody with gratitude. That is such an important lesson to keep in your heart.
The Save the Redwoods League named a redwood grove in Montgomery Woods State Reserve after Inez, which was one of
Mm,
her favorite places.
nice.
After her death, Bracy wrote an article about Inez for Science magazine and said, quote, she collected approximately 9,300 numbers, which are distinct botanical collections, from 140,000 to 150,000 specimens, and over 500 new species, the last collection being yet unidentified. Many new species and one new genus were named in her honor, end quote.
Remarkable woman.
Yeah, so even at the time of her death, they still hadn't finished going through everything that she
Yeah.
had
They
collected.
haven't finished cataloging her work.
Yes, which I think Bracy was in charge of and,
Yes.
continued doing that work after her death.
Amazing.
Yeah, so as I said, I first heard about Inez because of that kids show, Eleanor Wonders Why. But in other media, PBS has also put out a documentary short featuring Inez in their Unladylike 2020 series.
Ah, I like that.
Yes. Unladylike. Yes.
Unladylike.
And of course, my favorite, the Google Doodle, honored her in September 2019. And that is the story of Inez Mexia.
Beautiful story. Just thinking about her life practically makes me envious, wanting to go explore these places, look at new plants. She conquered a completely different frontier. Her unique setup early in life, she has one foot in America and one foot in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, she was set up very well to go explore a completely different region than what others had discovered before. A bulk of the cataloging before her would have happened in the countries of Europe, etc.
Yeah,
But
or places that people were comfortable going to, like around cities and things like that in
yeah,
Mexico or in South
no,
America.
I'm sure there were adventurous men who, like John Muir, for example, who
Mm-hmm.
have ventured into total wilderness and
Yes.
enjoyed it immensely. So I wouldn't take that away. But again, it's part of the Western world. But
Yeah.
she was able to go into a completely different area because of her unique setup,
Mm-hmm.
where she had dual citizenship practically, which then set her up to be this pioneer in a very unique frontier.
Yeah.
Beautiful story.
I also really liked her story because, like, the scientific part of her story started so late in life. She, went through divorces and psychological and physical breakdowns before finally, when she's, over 50 years old, then she finally finds herself and starts to take classes in botany. And if you look at her scientific career, it really was the last like 15 or 16 years of her life, and that's it. And in that, she was able to accomplish so much.
That is a very good point, and so optimistic in its viewpoint, because there
Hmm.
is hope for all of us.
Yes, exactly.
I can still figure out what I want to be when I grow up.
Yeah. So that's why I
So
thought you would like this story because I know we
absolutely,
talk about that all the time. Like,
yes,
it's
finding
never
our
too
true.
late. It's never too late
Yes,
to find what you're really, truly interested in and chase after it.
yes, it's highly optimistic. I think that there is hope for us yet.
Yes. There's hope for everyone. Yeah. It's never too late.
Thank you, Arti. Thank you for sharing a really beautiful story to celebrate the fact that we have been together for 1 year.
Yes. 1 year of podcasting.
And I don't know who else is enjoying it. I hope a lot of people enjoy these stories. I sure am.
Yes. Good. I'm glad you're with me on this journey. Thanks for listening. If you have a suggestion for a story we should cover or thoughts you want to share about an episode, reach out to us at smartteapodcast.com. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky at smartteapodcast, and listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And leave us a rating or comment. It helps us grow. New episodes are released every other Wednesday. See you next time.